Hi. So I was asked how I made this lovely lady here. Wow. Basically, this is kind of a shortcut way to do a very difficult thing, which means that it's still going to be moderately difficult at certain points. But the biggest things, or the gist of it, is that I used thermoplastic over a plaster face cast. And then from there, I primed, painted, and then beat the face. So first things first, thermoplastic. This is environmental technology thermoplastic. This brand is one I found on Amazon for like 20 bucks for, I want to say, double this amount. It comes in a roll. There are obvious ethical implications there buying from Amazon. And I think there may be other places you can get it from, but that is where I got this. It's the fastest and cheapest way to get it. So take from that what you will. So the first thing that I did with the thermoplastic is I kind of laid it out as much as possible, and I used heat gun boy to flatten it out. So since it comes in a roll, it just kind of rolls up and it's just difficult to work with. So I found that it's better to flatten it out for that reason. Also, it shrinks quite a bit, which thermoplastics like Warbler won't do. So if you use something more expensive like Warbler, it's going to be easier to work with, I think. I don't have Warbler money. I've never really worked with Warbler. I work with the cheap stuff. So that's what my tutorial is based on today. So yeah, so flatten her out, kind of shrinks a little bit. You can see some variations in this sheet, I think, where it kind of puckers and stuff. That's just from it shrinking in certain spots where the heat gun was on it longer. So the first steps, real first steps, are to make a plaster cast if you don't already have one. And that's where some of the difficulty comes in. I'm not going to go into how to do that because there are 15 million YouTube videos on that. But that's the big thing. That's how you get it to look so realistic, is you need your own face. Don't do this on your actual face. You will burn your skin off, okay? Thank you. Please don't do that. So we start with the plaster cast. Touch my face. There we go. Another big thing to keep in mind is to use a mold release. I did not. I've done this twice. The first time I did it was for this little partial mask that I will be using for a Junjito moment. The first time I did this, I had no real problems because I think it's because it's such a small piece. There were still lots of elbow grease needed to get it popped off, but other than that, it was fine. The second time to make this one, you can see right there, kind of got some chunks popped off of here. That's not ideal. So that means I'm going to have to, I'm just gonna have to make another one, basically. This will probably be fine for anything else I use it in the meantime, but yeah, it's just not really gonna be great if I want to accurately impart the texture and stuff from the face. The plastic does a really good job of picking up the nuanced grooves and texturing in the face for the most part, laid over the face cast, but you do have to really work it in there, and that's part of the reason why getting it to release is a problem, because you know there's lots of crevices in the face and the eyes and stuff like that, and the more realistic you want it, the more you're gonna have to make sure the plastic is getting in there. So starting off with the actual mask, you're gonna wanna lay the sheet over and leave a decent enough space so that it can curve around the top. So this is all plastic around the top. And there's a bit of a neck flap here too. I kind of overlaid the plastic about here. Keep it in place and work down and around just so that all of the plastic around the edges can sink down, and then you can go into the face. Get everything molded on there. And this isn't perfect, but I'll say it's not ideal even, but I have plenty of plastic to work with. So from there, you're gonna take your Styrofoam head. I use this kind of male figure because it just has like a larger head and it's gonna match up a lot closer to an actual head size. But once you have the mask kind of casted out over your plaster cast, you want to pop it off and then place it on the mannequin head. So for this one, I also chopped off at an angle the bottom here. They're the exact same head. So I chopped off the bottom here and I put some tape and duct tape around it just to make it like less rough. I also, there's probably toxins that came out of this, but I also ran the heat gun over the bottom to kind of melt a little bit of the styrofoam down before I did this. But it was really, really rough and scratchy, so I put tape over it. And then from there, I used this stuff. I put the mask onto the styrofoam head and I kind of melted around the edges so that it connects, and it ended up melting together in a couple of spots, which I don't mind because that kind of adhered it to the styrofoam head. I didn't want to do too much of that because you don't want to melt the details out of the face. Although this is for something that was supposed to be dead, so I did apply a little bit of heat this way, and it kind of made the face slump a bit. So it looks like it's looks like it's dead. It has skin falling off to the side as a dead person's face would. So it's kind of adhered a little bit at the top. As you see, there's kind of like one point. I can kind of move it, but there's one point where it's like stuck together. That's worked out pretty well for me. All in all, this is like a little janky. It looks way better than it's actually constructed. But so you put the mask on there, you kind of get the edges down a little bit, really just hitting along the edges. And then I kind of left this as just a flat surface that I approximated into a bit of a neckline slash shoulder line. And you can also kind of warm it up and then put it on your body to, you know, kind of get it formed to your body a bit. Had to like cut it down here on the side so it didn't stab me in the neck and stuff. Once it's all adhered and it's all formed, then the Modge Podge comes in, and I went over the styrofoam head as much as I can get to, and the face. This is a mattifying Modge Podge. I let that dry, and then I just did some folk art acrylic paint over top. Doesn't matter, just as long as you have acrylic paint that approximates your skin tone, totally fine. So then I just use acrylic paint over the entire thing. You're going to want to paint the thing. I used makeup because I was painting my own face with makeup, and I basically just, as I went and did each part of my makeup, I did it on the mannequin. That's pretty self-explanatory, I think. I don't think I need to go into how to paint your face. That I used all of the products on my face that I used on here with the exception of, for my under eye white, I used the NYX milk pencil, and for the white on here, I used just like a cream. The pencil did not want to stick to this material, so keep that in mind too. It might have to be, you might have to play with it a little bit. But I kind of found that highlighting and contouring on this, and you know, all of those little pieces basically work the same as just painting someone else's face, and making sure you get the highlights in the right place and stuff means that when the light hits it, it's going to hit it the same way it would hit on your face, and those little details will really stand out on camera. Now this looks really ugly, so I will show you how it's attached to my body. This adds another little layer of difficulty onto it, but it's really helpful. So first of all, what I would have done if I gave myself more time, I would have added straps to this, and I still will when I need to use it again, but I'm lazy. I would say some long Velcro straps or buckle or whatever coming from this back shoulder flap here and maybe about here. And I would probably harness around my body. And I almost want to say it needs a harness point. I don't know, that might be enough. Yeah, play with it, maybe around the arm too. But you're gonna wanna harness it to your body a little bit. So this guy, by the way, you can just hot glue some Velcro or strapping or whatever to this and it should be fine. But also you could cut slits and then loop things through and then sew it together. But what I made was this janky little shirt, and it's really sheer, so I'm not going to take off my current shirt to show you, but this janky little shirt has sleeves and neck hole for me, and then a little neck hole and cowl for her. So we're gonna pop this part into the little neck hole, and it's nylon fabric, so it's really stretchy. From there, you pull the cowl up. The cowl is now up, and then using pins, just secure the cowl all around. I'm only gonna put a couple in there for now, but you just want to make sure it's nice and secure. And then you can slip on the t-shirt. Et voila. So you see how it's a little wiggly. It mostly stays in there. Not super well. So you're definitely going to want some of those straps to hold it down a little bit. But also I wore a button-down shirt around here, and I just buttoned up as much as I could. And then there was a dress over top of all of that. So the shirt really held it a lot. But if I was performing with this on, I would definitely want some of that strapping to make sure it's secure. Because with the shirt here, it's like cool, it wiggles a little bit. But if you're taking a picture, totally fine. Also, really important is the wig. It was a big fluffy, since it was a big fluffy afro, it covered so many of these really janky spots, but there's a lot of detail work that you could do if you're gonna try to be pro, and you know, like for example, you can cut it at, make sure it's more softly blended and the ears are a little bit more visible and stuff if you want to make it more realistic without the use of wigs or whatever. I was very cut cornery about this because I knew there was going to be tons of wig and costuming over it, and I didn't really have to worry too much about it. The wig comes about here. It covers a lot on the sides, covers a lot of the seams here. I also use necklaces to cover seams. So, you know, there's a lot of tricks you can do to make this look way more blended than it looks right now. Getting it off is a problem. Ugh. There you have it. That is essentially how I made this thing. It's not perfect. It's not the cleanest thing in the world, but it works for what I used it for. I'm sure it's going to work for anything else I'm going to need it for. And if I really want to make it better, I'm sure I can just separate it from the styrofoam and heat gun down some of the edges and make it look nicer. I don't really see a reason to do it though. Hope that was helpful. And enjoy. Tag me if you make one. Bye. Is it creepy? Weird. What? Stretch it a little bit, yeah. Yes. Not a fan.